Boy, it feels good to be back inside the Crown Vic trophy truck. Right now what I'm trying to do is figure out how I want to run my intake, which is currently facing the driver's side, about 5 inches from where my hand's going to be while I'm driving. So my first thought was to get something like this, a U-bend intake, and run it like this, and then do the mass air and filter on the end. And this would work. It's awfully close. And in addition to being too close to my steering wheel in my hand, it's going to interfere with the steel tube that I want to run down here, so that I can then put the sheet metal around the motor and kind of protect it from heat and noise. And with that in mind, I came up with another solution, and that is this. It is a mandrel bent 3-inch 90-degree elbow. And what I would like to do is I would like to do a custom plate that mates the throttle body here to the upper plenum. So I would like to have it go somewhere like this, maybe facing up just a little bit. And then what that'll do is that'll take the throttle body and just turn it 90 degrees so it's facing forward. And then from there, I'll probably cut this in half to make it 90 degrees and then have it mounted somewhere like that, so that it's then facing outside the vehicle. And then probably just put the air filter up here. And then right now I don't know if I'm gonna run a windshield or not, but if I do, then that way I could just run a windshield on each side and I could leave this open for the intake. But that's kind of up in the air. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that yet. Kind of just doing one thing at a time. So that's what I'm gonna do first, is I'm going to build the 90-degree elbow for the throttle body. And it is going to increase the distance that the air travels after the throttle body, which I don't love. It's going to increase the runner length, and I don't know what effect that will have on the performance, if any, but that's what kind of makes the most sense to me now. And if we have any issues tuning later, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, here it is, all finished up. I think it looks pretty awesome. Now one thing here, I don't know if you can see, but you can see I started by welding at the 4 points and then I had to weld in between. Man, I cannot get these welds to look much prettier than that. That's about the best I can do. I can make them strong, but I can never seem to get the transition, like right there, where I go from one bead and then over here I come from another to that point. I just can never get that right. But as long as it doesn't leak any air, I'm happy. Alright guys, here is how it's looking right now. Pretty awesome, I think. I've got the elbow in. I ordered up a new gasket here and here, and what's interesting, I first looked it up as a 2006 and it didn't have the spacer with the little ridges in it. It only had like a Felpro paper gasket. And then I looked up 2007 and it had this spacer. So I'm not really sure exactly what it does. I'll show you on the inside what it looks like in a second here, but I ended up ordering a new one from a 2007, so it matches it exactly the same. It probably has something to do with like little mini vortices created behind the butterfly valve when it opens up, and it probably just is designed to make the air smoother, but I'm not exactly sure. And then I ordered up the really cheapy thin paper gasket right here. And then you see I've got the 90-degree elbow cut and ready to go. It's gonna look pretty awesome. I ended up getting that air filter location right in the front. So I'm going to cut that factory air box so that I can then put the mass air sensor right here, and then I'll probably do some kind of a mount from here up to an air filter. And I think that'll actually look pretty badass. All right, I want to show you guys what I've got going on here. This air box top right here is from a factory 2006 Crown Vic, the one that I was initially using for this build. This one right here is from a 2006 Police Interceptor. And if you notice, the intake, where the actual intake hose meets, is the same. It's, I believe it's 81 millimeter, give or take. But this portion here is much wider on the Police Interceptor than it is on the standard Crown Vic. And this is a lot closer to the Mercury Marauder airbox. And if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody dynoed it with both of these, and this one put out 11 more horsepower. And I think the only thing that I have to change when I change this out is the computer as well. So the wiring harnesses are the same, and the mass air sensors actually have even the same part number. It's exactly the same mass air sensor, but this one needs a different computer. Otherwise, it won't understand exactly how much air is getting through because the housing is bigger. So I'm going to use the Police Interceptor on this because I want that extra 11 horses. All right, I've got the mass air sensor here mocked up and ready to go. I think it looks pretty awesome. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to mount it. I'll probably do something from here up to here, but I want to make sure that whatever I do isn't going to interfere with the vibration of the motor as it's, you know, tearing up the desert. So I'll probably just order up a 3-inch filter, like just a little cone filter to go right here, and then probably some kind of a bracket up here, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to mount it. It's going to have to be pretty sturdy because this thing's going to vibrate a lot, but it's looking good. All right, it is time to finally get a cage built around this motor. So I don't exactly know what I'm going to do. I know that I'm going to use, I don't know if you can see down there, 1/2-inch square tubing, and I'm thinking about coming from up here across and then doing a 45 and then another 45. And instead of doing a bunch of cuts, I'm probably just going to heat it up and bend it because it does not need to be structural. But I'm not really sure. I'm really just going to kind of wing it and go with the flow. Time is of the essence on this part, and I've got to get the portion built right here with some steel, and then I've got to do more tubing down here and basically create the whole footwells and everything. And it's gonna be a pain, and quite honestly I have been dreading this. So I'm just going to turn on some good music and just start bending and see what happens. Alright, check this out. These are the driver side and passenger side engine covers, and I am very happy with how tight I made those turns. I did that by hand and I'm proud of myself. So these are going to go on the sides on the left and right here, and I'm going to have to do some kind of a crossbar, but I can't tell exactly how I'm gonna make it. So I'm just gonna start welding and keep going. All right, for some reason, the GoPro didn't record my audio right here, so I'm just gonna have to do a little voiceover. But basically, I put this bar on top of the engine to see if I needed to do curved steel on top. And so right now I'm just pointing out that I am in fact going to have to roll some steel so that I have a slight bend so that I can actually fit the steel around the whole engine. All right, I've got the rolled pieces installed, and you can see it clears the engine very well. I've got a total of 3 here. So now I just have to get some poster board and make a mock-up so that I can then get the steel cut. All right, this is the engine cover. I've got it mocked up with poster board right now. A little hole there for the intake. I think it's looking pretty cool. So I'm going to pull these poster boards off, and then I will make these out of aluminum. And this one I'll probably do out of steel, and I'll probably weld this in. And I'm thinking about welding this in here. There'll be a sheet of steel here, and then again right here. This will be aluminum because this will screw in. That way I can remove it. This will also be aluminum for the same reason. So these will be removable, so I can work on the engine without having to drop it every single time. And then over here for the foot wells, I'll probably do steel on the bottom and then aluminum sides and aluminum here again, so I can remove these. And then over here, this is going to be a little bit difficult. I've got kind of an odd shaped piece. It's hard to tell here, but it's going to be this little rhombus shape. And I'll do this out of steel because I'm going to have to do heat shielding on the back to protect the occupants' feet from the headers right there. The cool thing is on the driver's side over here, let me get over here and show you. At least there's some heat shield for the exhaust, but again, same process, still going to require that. The footwell for the driver's side needs to be a little bit different shapes because of course I have to fit the accelerator and brake pedals in there, so that'll be a little bit of work. But I just wanted to show you guys how it looks to mock up the poster board, because these are going to be the most difficult pieces because they're oddly shaped, and then I'm going to have to do a slight roll. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use my brake, the cool guy brake over there, to make the slight bends for this piece, because as you can see, it's got kind of a goofy curve to it. So I'll show you what I'll do when you've got a curve that needs to be bent. It's kind of fun, actually. All right, this is the top engine cover. I've got it all cut out for the air intake, and I've got it marked up to do some bead rolls in it to give it a little bit of strength and a little bit of look. So I'll do that now. All right, this is how the engine cover's looking. This is the lower cover. I left this blank here because I'm going to have to put in a little service panel so that I can get to the transmission dipstick there. And then here's how the top is looking. It came out pretty good, I think. All right, guys, today I am working on the front suspension here. Now, if you see on the lower control arm, what I've just done, you can tell from these shavings, is I've made this bottom bolt hole a little bit bigger. And the reason for that is because I had my cousin machine these bushings here. And the purpose for these is going to be to slide in here like so, and then you can see how they stick out a little bit, and then the coilover will mount right here, and I'll have this one from this side, but I haven't enlarged that hole yet. So it'll sit something like this, and then on the bottom of the coilover I'll be able to use 1/2" grade 8 bolt. Like so. It'll be set up like this with the control arm on each side. So that's the idea. We'll see how it works out. All right, this is how they're looking, and I just measured it up. That's the exact size of the coilover mount. So these things should work out perfectly. So I'm just going to have to take out the bolt here, slide that coilover in, and then we'll be good to go. But now would be a good time to show you guys how my cousin made those. He is quite the machinist. Alright, I've got the coilover all mounted up. I think it looks fantastic. Let me show you what it's looking like down here. Ooh, let me turn on some light. So I think it came out real nice. Those sleeves are perfect. Alright, I've got the spanner nuts here, basically just touching the top coil. Let's see, right there. And then I'll do the top one down to that. And I'm going to start off the preload at 10%. And so, let's see, I've got, I think one of these is 10 inches and the other is 12. So it'll be 2.2 inches that I'll have of gap right here. And that'll be this nut pressing down on these two springs. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, I used my spanner wrench to tighten this down. I've got 2.2 inches here. So these springs should be pre-tensioned about 10%. And I haven't done, I haven't really worked with coilovers for off-road vehicles in many years, but I seem to remember that being a good base setting for them. So that's where I'll start, and let me get the driver's side done here. Alright, I've got the coilovers in on both sides, and I've got them pre-tensioned here, and I have not lowered it yet. I am very interested to see how much they compress under just the weight of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and see what we've got. I'll focus here on this coil so you can see. Seems about right. I think that's about, I was going for, I'd like it to droop about 30%. And so I'd like it to sit at about 30% compression, and then that way you've got about 70%. It can still squish when I hit the bumps. Alright, I've got the rear suspension in. Let me climb under here to get a closer look for you. So I think they came out really nice. They were kind of a pain in the neck to get them compressed in here. I got the lower bolts in, and then what I did was I wrapped a ratchet strap around the top nut here. Obviously this was up here. Right now it's preloaded, and so it was up here, and I was able to compress it to slide it in there. But I've got it in the front. I've got a 350 pound on the top and then a 400 pound on the bottom. In the rear, I have a 325 on the bottom and a 200 on top. And I just used like an online calculator, and I put in all the dimensions, like that it's a live axle, where it mounts on the axle, how far the travel is, what type of coilover, all that, and it came up with these numbers. So I think it's pretty close. Let me see if I can show you how much articulation this has. I'll throw this thing on the lift and then show you the articulation, and then I'll jump up and down on it and show you how much bounce it's got. But it's pretty good. The rear seems perfect to me. It seems a little stiff now, but it'll have a lot more weight. The front actually seems a little bit soft, but I don't know. You tell me what you think. All right, I've got cinder blocks with 4x6s on the front and the back on opposite sides, and I'm going to lower the lift and see how much articulation we get. All right, that was a little squirrely. It looked like it was about to roll off the lift, so I lifted it back up so it wouldn't do that. But I'm going to jump on it now so we can see how much it bounces. That's not bad. I think it's pretty good. What do you think? If you guys ever wondered who would go on eBay and buy one of those old 1980s as seen on TV vacuum hair cutters so they can cut their own hair in their garage, it's me. I did that.